language, and then it is preceded by the list of the vocabulary, and then rapid silent reading is gonna be the goal for this one. And at the same time, resorted to the discussing the content of the passage in English in practice. So based on those facts, the audiolingual method has been formed. So, but what is the difference between the other thing is that at the time the British applying linguists has been developed this approach for this one, but that's attempt to the treat the language content systematically. Uh, in this method, they focus on the sentence pattern and then grammar that has been introduced in the textbook. And then, but another one is like there is no standardization of the vocabulary or grammar that was included. Neither was there and consistent in what grammar, sentence pattern, vocabulary is becoming the most important for the beginning and the intermediate or the advanced learner at that time. So, but that is for the other pattern, other textbook. At that time, what happened is the entry of the United States into the World War II. So after United States has been entered into the part of the World War II, it become an effect to the language teaching. After World War II, we can also say it actually is more look like the colonizing by the United States. So at that time, the US government is trying to supply the personnel who are really fluent in German, French, Italian, Chinese, and Japanese, and Malay, and then also other languages also. So they are at first they are just trying to be work as like interpreter who can work it as an interpreter and then cultural assistant and translator because they need to teach or learn the other language to be able to communicate each other. So in that way, they try to set up the new language training program at first. So for that one is we call it ASTP. That one is Army Specialized Training Program. For this one has been the commission by the government, by the phases of the American universities to develop this program. It was started at the 1942, and then also the 55 American university involved in this program at first, starting from the 1943. So what is ASTB? To explain the ASTB in the really easiest way is that the main point of ASTB is to attain a conversational proficiency. Their focusing is a lot based on the listening and the speaking because their main target is to be able to communicate with the other people, other speakers. So it's not look like the other state, other university, other courses go. That's why they need a really new approach. So they consider new approach as a really really necessary. And then also that's why starting from the Bonfield and his colleague has been started being developed that part of their research. So that is they call it informant method. So at first, they use the native speakers of the language as an informant, like the source of the phrase, vocabulary, and providing the sentence for the imitation linguist, and then who supervise the learning experience. By using them, they are trying to find a new approach to attain their conversational proficiency. That is the part of the ASTB. Based on those objectives, based on those people, the linguists are trying to find how can they produce the new approach to teach or learn the new language. But at the time, they have been considered like the linguist did not necessarily know the language, but was trained in eliciting the basic structure of the language from the informant. Informant means the native speaker. Based on the native speaker, they are trying to find the basic structure of the language. For example, like the sentence structure is the subject verb object or subject object verb. Based on those things, they are trying to build it up. So the students and linguists are able to take part in the guided conversation with the informant together. And then after that, they gradually learn how to speak the language as well to understand much of its basic grammar. So from my point of view, I consider this audiolingual method is really relying on the cognitive skills of one person by getting like by learning how to speak that language gradually, by knowing the business structure, they will be able to speak based on the guided conversation. So in that way, so that's why from my point of view, I consider this one as relying a lot on the cognitive one. So after based on those things, they have been got the course guideline. So in that kind of situation, the student in that course, the ASTP has been need to study the 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, and then also generally 15 hours of drill with the native speaker, and then also 20 to 30 hours of the private study also needed. Based on that, we will need to spread over the 2 to 3 6 week sections. So that is a system adopted by the Army. So it's going to be in the small class of mature and highly motivated students. Excellent results are often achieved. Uh, since their objective is try to find the translator, the people who will be able to communicate like a core course people. That's why their target becoming the mature and highly motivated student. Their target student is not the young learner. We can see based on that. So how does it emerge? The emergence of the audiolingual method is result from the increased attention given to the foreign language teaching in the United States toward the end of the 1950s. The need of the radical change and rethinking of the foreign language teaching methodology was brought by the launching as the first Russian satellites in the 1959. So like initially, like in here, they have been stated legal to the reading method because they will need a lot of drill for the audiolingual. That's why it has been linked to the reading method for sure. So it actually the audiolingual method has been based a lot on that ASTP. That's why ASTP is part of the background. So in audiolingual method, the teacher will encourage to attend a summer institutes to improve their knowledge of the foreign language. At the same time, they also need to learn the principle of linguistics. At the same time, also for the new linguistically based from the teaching method. The language teaching specialist said about the developing a method that was being applicable to conduction in U.S. colleges and university classroom. So they have been able to use in the college and university classroom. So there are some notes we have to consider. That is the specialist drew on the earlier experience of the Army program and oral in a structural approach based on the Fries and his colleague. So and then also by adding the insights taken from the behavioral psychology. And then also this combination of this linguistic theory has been contrasted with analytics, and then also the procedure of the oral, and then also the behavioral psychology. Those three things, by combining all the four things, it has been led to the audiolingual method. This method has been widely adopted for the teaching foreign language in North American college and then also the university. And then last but not least, it provided the methodological foundation for the materials for the teaching of foreign languages at college and then also the university level in United States and America. So that's having the part of the some notes for the audiolingual method. So and then starting from this slide, Sadaf will present. So Jeff.
Thank you, Hazel. Hello,
Okay.
everyone. Assalamu alaikum. So, theory of language. Okay. The language teaching theoreticians and the methodologists who developed audiolingualism not only had a convincing and a powerful theory of language to draw upon, but they were also working in a period when a prominent school of American psychology known as behavioral psychology claimed to have trap the secrets of all human learning, including language learning too. The behaviorism, like structural linguistics, is another anti-mentalist, empirical-based approach to the study of human behavior. To the behaviorist, the human being is an organism capable of a wide repertoire of behaviors. The occurrences of these behaviors is developed upon three crucial elements in learning: as stimulus, which serves to elicit behavior, a response tracked by stimulus, and reinforcement, which serves to mark the response as being appropriate or inappropriate and encourages the repetition or suppression of the response in the future. Reinforcement is a, if we talk about reinforcement, so it is a vital element in the learning process because it increases the likelihood and that the behavior will occur again and eventually become a habit. To apply this theory to language learning is to identify the organism as the foreign language learner, the behavior as a verbal behavior, the stimulus as what is taught or presented of the foreign language, the response is the learner's reaction to the stimulus, and the reinforcement at the extrinsic approval and the praise of the teacher or fellow student are the intrinsic self satisfaction of target language use. Okay. The very last point is that grammar was considered a branch of logic. So in
Sorry,
next slide,
but the slide
yes,
doesn't
sir.
move. The slide doesn't move. Your slides, the slide doesn't move.
Uh,
You
so
can
Hazel,
move
can you please
to
change the
next.
slide?
Yeah. So only the first slide for your part.
Yes, sir. Hazel,
Yeah, move
can you please change the
to
slide?
the next slide according to your
Y-
your speech.
So
Yeah.
Sarah, are you finished this slide?
Okay.
Okay.
Now, okay, okay. So
Okay.
language. Language was viewed as a system of structural related elements for the encoding of meaning, the elements being phonemes, morphemes, words, structures, and sentences types. The term structure referred to these characteristics. So, as we previously understand that the language has a certain terms that have been discussed here, like the phonemes, morphemes, words, and the structure, because on the basis of these things, language is developed. So, in the term structure has following characteristics. The very first one is that elements in a language were thought of as being linearly produced in a rule governed structure way. Language examples should be exhaustively described at any structural level of description, like the phonetic, phonemic, and morphological, etc. And the third point is that linguistic level were thought of as systems within systems, that is, as being primarily structured. Phonemic systems lead to the morphemic systems, and these in translate to the higher level systems of the phrases, classes, and the sentences. So, a language is simply as a structured way or has different systems within these systems. Okay. So, next slide, please. Okay. An important tenet of structural linguistics was the primary medium of language is oral, speech is language. Since many languages do not have a written form, and we learn to speak before we learn to read or write. So it was argued that the language is primary what is spoken and only secondary what is written. So that was the statement given by the Brooks in 1964, and after that, it was assumed that the speech had a priority in language teaching. This was contrary to popular views of the relationship of the spoken and the written forms of language, since it had been widely assumed that the language existed principally as the symbols written on paper, and that spoken language was an imperfectly realized of the pure written versions. So language is both the written and the spoken form. So before written, it was assumed that the medium of was the spoken language. So in next slide, please. A method cannot be based simply on a theory of language. It also needs to refer to the psychology of learning and learning theory. So in next slide, we will understand about the learning principle. So in learning principle, out of various influences, some principles emerged known as the learning principles. Okay. Uh, which became the psychological foundations of ideolingualism and came to shape its methodological practices. The very first point is that foreign language learning is basically a process of mechanical habit formation. Good habits are found by giving correct responses rather than by making mistakes. Language is verbal behavior, that is the automatic production and the comprehension of utterances, and can be learned by inducing the students to do likewise. And in second point, we have language skills are learned more effectively if the items to be learned in the target language are presented in spoken form before they are seen in written form. Like the oral training is needed to provide the foundation for the development of other language skills. So it's very necessary that must have the oral training between the learners. So in third point, we have analogy provides a better foundations for language learning than analysis. Analogy involves the process of generalization and discrimination. Explanations of rule are therefore not given until students have practiced a pattern in a variety of contexts and are thought to have acquired a perception of the analogies involved. Drills can enable learners to form correct analogies. Hence, the approach to the teaching of grammar is essentially inductive rather than deductive. Okay, so in number 4 point and the last point, that is the meanings that the words of our language have for the native speaker can be learned only in a linguistic and cultural context and not in isolation. Teaching a language thus involving teaching aspect of cultural system of the people who speak the language. And this that was the statement given by Rivers in 1964. So in next slide we will learn about B.F. Skinner. Can you please change the slides? Okay. So, B.F. Skinner, in advocating these principles, proponents of ideolingualism were drawn on the theory of well-developed school of American psychology that is known as behaviorism. The prominent hardware behaviorist B.F. Skinner had elaborated a theory of learning applicable to language learning in his influential book Verbal Behavior that was developed in 1957, in which he stated that we have no reason to assume that verbal behavior differs in any fundamental respect from non-verbal behavior, or that any new principle must be invoked to account for it. So that was his statement about the behaviorism that he given in his book Verbal Behavior in 1957. Yeah, please change the slide. Okay, so design. Ideolingualists demand a complete reorientation of the foreign language curriculum. Like the 19th century reformers, they advocated a return to the speech based instruction with the primary objective of oral proficiency and dismissed the study of grammar or literature as the goal of foreign language teaching. So, as Brooks in 1964 stated that a radical transformation is called for, a new orientation of procedures is demanded, and the thorough house cleaning of method, materials, text, and tests is unavoided. So that was the statement given by Brooks about in 1964 in the response of the designs. Okay. So in next slide, please. Ob- the objectives. Brooks distinguished between the short range and long range objectives of an audiolingual program. So the short range and the long range objectives of an audiolingual methods are the very first one is that short range objectives include training in listening comprehension. They mainly focuses on listening comprehension, accurate pronunciation, recognition of speech symbols as graphic signs on the printed page, and ability to reproduce these symbols in written. That was the written in Brooks' book in 1964, and apart from that, they gave the three main important points about this. That the mentioned immediate objectives imply three others. The very first one that control of the structures of sound, form, and order in the new language. The very second is that acquaintance with vocabulary items that bring content into these structures, and number three is that meaning in terms of the scientific significance these verbal symbols have for those who speak the language natively. So these were the little terms that was attached with the short range objectives, and that was given by Brooks in 1964. Please change the slide. So we will study long range objectives. Long range objectives. Yeah, thank you. In long range objective, we generally see the statement of Brooks. He stated that, according to the Brooks, long range objectives must be language if the native speaker uses it. So we have to focus on the native speaker's tone and however they are speaking. We have to just speak like them. There must be some knowledge of a second language as it is possessed by a true bilingualist. That was a statement by Brooks in 1964. So in practice, this means that the focus in the early stages is on oral skills, speaking skills, with gradual links to other skills as learning develops. So please next slide. Yes, the syllabus. Audiolingualism is a linguistic or a structure based approach to language teaching. The starting point is a linguistic syllable which contains the key items of phonology, morphology, and syntax of the language arranged according to their order of presentation. The language skills are taught in the order of this. Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Okay, sorry. The no, please previous one. Hazel. Previous one. Yeah, thank you. The language skills are taught in the order of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Listening is viewed largely as training in oral discrimination of basic sound patterns. So, listening provide a basic role in learning a new language. The language may be presented entirely orally at first. Written representations are usually with help from learners in early stages. The learner's activities must at first be confined to the audiolingual and gestural visual bands of language behavior. So, according to Brooks, they have again a statement about this. Recognition and discrimination are followed by imitation. So, what recognition and discrimination? If we once imitate, then we will follow it. Repetition and memorization only when he is thoroughly familiar with sound, arrangements, and forms does he center his attention on enlarging his vocabulary thoroughly. He concentrates upon gaining accuracy before striving for fluency. So it's better to have accuracy rather than fluency. Okay, so in next slide, that is last slide. So type of learning and teaching activities. The range of exercise types and activities compatible with the communicative approach is unlimited, provided that such exercise enable learners to attain the communicative objectives of the curriculum, engage learners in communication, and require the use of such communicative processes as information sharing, negotiation of meaning, and interaction. Classroom activities are often designed to focus on completing tasks that are mediated through language and involve negotiation of information and information sharing. So here we have the very first point of the type of learning, that the dialogues and drills from the basis of audiolingual classroom practices. The second one is that dialogues are used for repetition and memorization. So that once you speak with another partner, you share your speech with other person, then it becomes your habit, and then automatically you repeat it and then memorize it. The third point is that correct pronunciation, stress, rhythms, and intonation are emphasized, because once you repeat your sentences, then automatically you will speak the correct pronunciation and other things too. So in number 4 point is that when dialogues has been presented and memorized, specific grammatical patterns in dialogues are selected and become the focus of various kinds of drill patterns, practices, and exercises. So, in fifth point, when that the use of drills and pattern practices is a distinctive feature of the audiolingual method. Various kinds of drills are used, and that was written in Brooks' book 1964. So that was my part, and further Sarfraz will define it. Thank you. Hello, Sarfraz, are you there?
Yeah, hello.
Sarfraz? Sir, I think he was having network issue. I think he might not be listening it. Let me dismiss him. Sarfraz?
Yeah, sorry, are you finished or?
Yes, sir, I have finished my part. Further Sarfraz will define it.
Okay, so you are finished with the whole presentation?
No, sir, still
You
not.
still have another?
Yeah, I have finished my part, but
Oh,
Sarfraz will present
from,
further.
okay, please go on.
Hello, can you
Hello,
listen me?
that's
Hello, Assalamualaikum. I am so sorry that actually I have a problem. Can you listen me? Hello, hello.
Please remove your
Hello, can you
headphones,
listen me?
Sarfraz. Remove your headphones.
Can you listen me?
Remove your headphones.
Can
Yes,
you listen me now?
yes, yes. It's clear now.
Yes, it's better now.
Am I audible to you?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I am so sorry that I have a network problem, and I don't know why it happens, especially in my area. So again, extremely sorry. Let me continue my part of presentation that I will be defining further about the parts of my presentation: learner's role, teacher's role, procedure, and role of instruction materials. These would be the subtopics. As starting with the learner's role. Actually, learners are viewed as the organisms that can be directed by the number of training skills, and there is also a central role that learners play in these type of activities. And in this method, actually, in audiolingual method, the learners are encouraged to initiate their kind of interaction, because in behaviorist learning theory perspective, the teaching focuses on the external manifestations of learning rather than on the internal process. So in this regard, learners are encouraged to delete their mistakes. So learners play a reactive role by responding to the stimuli, and thus have little control over the content, path, or style of learning. And secondly, and they are not they are not sometimes encouraged in the terms of interaction, but because this leads to their kind of mistakes. So whenever they are not encouraged, and they may be feeling some kind of hesitation, or maybe kind of discouragement in this matter. So in the last point, in the earlier stages, the learners do always always understand the meaning of what they are repeating, and this may be a drawback. So in the past, they were used to learn by repeating, or by initiating the statements, or by just focusing on those statements which teacher used to repeat. Or by listening, they used to imitate accurately and learn with this behavior. So this is the learner's role in the audiolingual method. We will move to the next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah, in audiolingual method, teacher's role is central and active, because it is teacher teacher's role is central and active, because in this method, actually, teacher is dominated, and most of the times teachers are not the native speaker of their own language, and they bring a kind of audios, or the some of the video, some of the listening of ideas to let their student to listen in order to improve their language or the learning. So over here in this method, we can say that teacher have a authority, and these all are a number of practices are going on in this type of method, because their teachers wants actually to monitor and correct the learner's performance, and this is what the teachers keep their attentive kind of skills in order to continue the number of drills and the task, while choosing the relevant situation to their practice of structures. So in this method, simply, teacher's role is central when they are observing or monitoring the student's performance. A kind of evaluation is brought. And in this statement about the teacher's role, Brooks argues that the teacher must be trained to do the following. What teachers have to do, while in presenting in the class, they have to introduce, sustain, harmonize the learning of four skills in a kind of order. first of all, they have to introduce the kind of activities or the task related with the hearing, then with the speaking, and then writing and reading. And in this way, they have to go in a kind of activities. First of all, hearing, speaking, reading, writing, and then they have to move. They would not move with the other, then they would not uh, 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 introduce, they will not monitor or they will not give a kind of authentic way to their teachers, so to their students. So this is the teacher's role in audiolingual method. So we will move to the next slide. Hazel, can you please move this slide? Hello, Hazel. Yeah. And the role of instructional material in audiolingual methods. Indeed, it is the matter of fact that instructional materials in audiolingual method assess the teachers to develop their language mystery in the learner. So whenever they are thinking and they are leading kind of mystery to their they develop a kind of instruction material, and it must be a kind effective material that could develop. And secondly, instruction materials are primarily teacher oriented, and these must be developed by the teacher as they could instruct their students in a proper manner. And whenever when the textbooks and printed materials are introduced to the students, they provide the text of the dialogues used needs for the drill exercise. Indeed, all of these materials are developed for the sake of dialogues and cues and the drills and exercises in order to let their students to exercise the drills and exercises in a proper manner. And yes, in audiolingual methods, tape recorders have kind of pivotal role and the central roles for the teachers, for the learners too, because teachers brought a number of audios and the equipment to let their students listen and improve their speaking skills or the language skills. And lastly, if the teacher is not an active speaker of the target language, the tape recorder provides the accurate module for the dialogues and drills. So sometimes whenever a teacher is not native speaker of English language, he actually brought kind of videos, audios related with the English language in the accent of native speakers. So he present in front of his learners, as they could catch their proper native language. So this is what the instructional materials play their role in audiolingual method. So would you please move to the next slide? Yeah. Procedure is actually simple, because in audiolingual method, when we look, we can come to know that it is overall an oral approach to language. It involves in extensive instruction. So there's not any kind of stress is not given on the written form or speaking form. Just in this method, we are given the we are given stress on the just the oral instructions or listening. So instructions clearly focus on protection of immediate and accurate speech. So here, protection of immediate and accurate speech is needed, and a little provision of grammatical explanation is explained is involved. Basically, since audiolingualism method is oral approach, so language it is not actually surprising, but overall instructions are based on the oral approach. So target language is used as the medium of instruction rather than the native language. Here, native language is not spoken or while giving the instruction to the students, but target language is spoken as students could get the language in a proper manner, or they could practice their listening skills or the drills and exercises. And the translation or the use of the native speaker native language is discouraged, as they could catch the speaking style or the accent of the target language rather than their native language. So here they actually wanted to dominate the kind of elements on their native language, the language they learn, target language. So the classes of 10 or less are considered optimal, although larger classes are often the norm. So here, this is a kind of procedure. With the help of this procedure, we can apply the audiolingual method in our different classes. But the range of kind of limit is given that classes of 10 or less considered optimal in this method, although larger classes are often the norm. So here, in above the 10th class or just a 12th or 11th standard, audiolingual method is practiced. Audiolingual method is practiced everywhere in universities, even in colleges, even in a number of institutes. Would you please move the next slide? Yeah. Yes. Decline of audiolingual method occurs when number of theory comes to widespread in 1960. So it was gradually happening when the decline of audiolingual method was coming. First and foremost, the theoretical foundation of audiolingual method were attacked as being understood in both in terms of the language theory and language learning. And secondly, practitioners found that the practical results fell short of expectations. Whatever they wanted to teach their students, all of the expectations were unable to achieve their targets or the accomplishments, whatever they settled. And in this method, students were often found to be unable to transfer their skills acquired through audiolingualism to the real communication outside the classroom, because whenever they went outside of the classroom, they were unable to practice those skills practically in their real life, and many found the experience of studying through the audiolingual procedures to bring are unsatisfying. So in this method, number of angles, with the number of angles that the method was attacked, whether in terms of theoretical attack or audiolingual method beliefs resulted from the changes in American linguistic theory in 60s too. So if after after a period of time, MIT linguist Noam Chomsky rejected the structuralist approach to language and description as well as the behavior theory of the language learning. So with this kind of revolution, audiolingual method was completely rejected, and it was the time when overall method was put on a kind of question. And the transformational grammar theory, along with the alternative theory of the language learning to that of the behavior, brought a huge dent in people's minds. So these both theories, the transformational grammar and the alternative theory of the language, brought a kind of revolution. And then overall method was brought under a number of series of the questions. So in this way, gradually the decline of audiolingual method occurs. Would you please move to the next slide? Yeah. And in audiolingual method, as I earlier said, that all of the things were brought under the question, such as its patterning, its practice, its memorization, whatever was happening in audiolingual method, these brought the number of questions in people's mind that we are going in a wrong manner, or it was resulting in a competence. So this created a crisis even in American language teaching circles. Promise full recovery has not yet been made. So a temporary relief was offered in the form of theory and derived from in part from Chomsky. That was with the title of cognitive code learning. So after overall decline of audiolingual method, kind of technical theory were brought by the Chomsky with the name of cognitive code learning. Would you please move to the next slide? Conclusion. Yeah. And so I will conclude with this, with these three statements that audiolingual method stresses the mechanical aspects of the language learning and the language use. There are many similarities between the situational language teaching and the audiolingualism method, whether in terms of teaching styles, instruction styles, and also even in many of these genders. So there are many similarities between both. And the similarities of two methods reflect the similar views about the nature of language, even in the way of teaching. So through these views, through these views, a number of traditions or the customs are developed. So this is our presentation. If you have any questions, you can ask. I am so sorry again. Actually, I have a problem, and still I am facing network problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for Sarfara, Sadaf, and Hazel for presenting your topic concerning the audiolingual method. So, I suppose it is the complete presentation, well organized, and also you can have the whole picture about audiolingual method. So, it is related to your teaching practice or micro teaching. So, when you design your teaching practice, at least you choose one of the teaching methods, and then it can be reflected in your micro teaching, whether you will apply TPR like Erwina's group, or whether you apply audiolingual method for today's presentation or silent way and others. So please, you should again read, yeah, and try to be familiar or to familiarize yourself for one of the teaching methods, and then apply it in your micro teaching being recorded. So using certain method will be reflected in your performance, your presentation, your materials, teaching materials, and also uh, in the lesson plan. So I am as a reader or reviewer, I could, whether I could detect or not, if I couldn't detect which method you are using, and then also if it will be more explicit if you mention in the lesson plan, yeah. Teaching method colon audiolingual method. So you could choose from the range of the oldest one, GTM, yeah, to the newest one under communicative approaches. Yeah. So you have various teaching methods, teaching techniques under that umbrella. Or you may apply like Silent Way or Suggestopedia. It is a bit complicated. So I have made the criteria for assessing your micro teaching. Yeah. So the whole will be 100. Yeah. So let's say I'll type later in WhatsApp group. Let's say for the performance presentation in the form of video, we will get 40. Lesson plan 15. Teaching materials 15. Reflection 10. Rubric assessment 10. Feedback 10. So the whole will be 100. But usually you may get like the maximum score, but usually not. So the whole, if you get 80, and then it will be okay. So we'll get A. So if you miss one of the aspects or two, so you will get disadvantage, meaning let's say you don't include feedback from the peers, you don't include rubrics or reflection, and then it will be minus 30 points. So from the recording, so you have to what include, or you have appendices, at least 5 documents: lesson plan, materials, reflection, your self-reflection, your self-evaluation, rubric, assessment for your teaching, and then feedback from the peers. At least one, yeah, one. So I suppose you can refer to the module or to the what PowerPoints as I presented before. The making lesson plan pre-recording. I suppose that is the what the best sample of making lesson plan. Yeah. So depending on you whether you will do as you like, what ignoring all the guidelines, or you should refer to one of the what you should refer to the guidelines. Yeah. So whether lesson plan will get the maximum score. So depending on the way you write, uh, present in the written form. Yeah. Any questions or comments?
Hello,
Yeah.
do we, for example, if I want to do the micro teaching, for example, I have can use any of my friends here in the class, right? We can do
Can
that,
you?
right? If I
Yeah.
want to do micro
Okay. So
teaching,
for micro teaching,
yes,
or teaching practice, like Erwina, so she has her own students, private course for, or if you don't have your own students, and then you can uh, have micro teaching, teaching your peers, yeah, teaching each other. That is the,
yes, yes,
so you have micro teaching with your peers, your classmates. But if you have your own student, and then you can have teaching practice with your own students like Erwina or others, or
yes,
Ifunda. Yeah, Ifunda. I'm not
yes,
sure whether she
probably with Stella
has her
and Vonda
own
because
or,
they
yeah,
were
yeah.
yes. Okay,
So
but it's
and
supposed to
then
be
you
in English,
have,
right?
sorry.
In English language, of course, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, of course, in English language.
yes,
uh, Also, don't forget to design your lesson plan. So please read again uh, the PowerPoint by the I presented before. So the title is, the file is lesson plan, or making lesson plan pre-recording. Yeah. I suppose you can refer to that file. Yeah. And then materials. So
yes,
if you apply, let's say like the CLT, communicative language teaching, and then I could detect or not from your lesson plan, meaning like teaching activities, and also from the materials you design. Yeah. So if let's say like you apply CLT, communicative language teaching, so I could see the types of material you use. Let's say like if you are using authentic materials, and also uh, material which make the students communicate each other, so it will be under the umbrella of CLT. Yeah. Also for reflection, yeah, so you have samples, examples. So don't copy and paste, but should be genuine, authentic, yeah. Whether you fail or not, but you should be honest. Let's say like in your assessment, and then perhaps your students fail to understand or comprehend your teaching, it's okay, but you should be just right as the meaning the students fail to what to understand my presentation from the rubric. Yeah, rubric is also you have some samples from the PowerPoints I presented before, from making lesson plan pre-recording. Ya, itu dibaca lagi gitu ya. And then feedback at least one peer, ya, or two peers. Meaning if you have like you are 10 in the classroom, yeah, in your classroom, and then one will be teaching the teacher, and then the rest will be students, and one or two uh, can be like the observer, yeah, observer outside of the, so not being participants. So
Uh,
he or she will fill the form based on the module. I suppose I have presented about feedback. Yeah. So what should be fail or should be commented? So if you miss one of the aspects or of the what appendices, at least five, yeah, the complete one five, yeah. Lesson plan, teaching materials, self-reflection, self-evaluation, and then rubric and feedback. So you should. So I hope I will get the complete documents from your teaching practice. So let's say you may use like the GTM, yeah, the oldest one. Perhaps it is the most convenient, easier, or but you won't get the maximum score, yeah, even though you submit the whole the whole documents. But if you use the newer teaching method, let's say after 7 days, let's say like the CLT, and then or you may utilize IT. Let's say your teaching will be more sophisticated. Let's say I could mention animation. Yeah? If you are teaching vocab and then you use animation, so you will get like the plus point. So depending on each individual, yeah, whether you may get A or not. So depending on your commitment, yeah, and try to fulfill to meet the guidelines. That is the, and then if you don't understand yet, then you can consult me about the choices of teaching method. Also in making lesson plan, so you still have time. So if you submit and then without what checking with the teachers, it is up to you, because depends on the. But if you strictly follow and all the guidelines on in the modules, in the PowerPoints materials, I already uploaded in the files MS Teams, so I suppose it will be okay. Okay, any questions, comments? So from Farouk about concepts. So you have 10, yeah, and you are 10, meaning you have 9. So it will be better if you involve all your friends, your classmates. Let's say one will be observer, meaning giving feedback, and then the rest, 8 will be in the participants, and then you will be in the teacher. Or 2 will be in the observers, 1 or 2, I suppose it's okay. And then the rest 6 will be your students, because if too few, and then it will be disturb the interaction or teaching activities. Yeah.
Hello, but
So
actually, I want to ask that since we have maybe 10 in the class, but then we have different time zone and different schedules. So I'm worried that it may be very hard for every person of us
yeah,
to coordinate it. In my case, I don't have any students, to be honest. So I need to do
yeah,
micro teaching.
yeah. I suppose you
So
could.
I'm just worried that it will be hard. Yes, still I can.
I suppose you could use MS Teams here. The can you open
Yes,
the?
yes,
You
yes.
have the code, the what team code, right? I suppose you can use the MS Teams for, let's say,
Yeah,
for
inshallah.
individual group, for group discussion as you did before, I suppose, in the what test and evaluation, right, Erwina? So you use MS Team for group discussion, right? Using MS Teams. Once I
Yes, yes.
was invited to, yeah. So use MS Team is okay in the for.
But I mean, we don't have to be 10, right? We can 5 or 6 be okay, but because
Yeah,
most
yeah,
okay,
yeah. Try to
because
have
for example,
more. Yeah,
10,
yeah. You are
okay,
10,
because
and then one will be in the teacher, and then one will be in the observer, and then the rest will be in the participants, or 2 will be in the observers for giving feedback.
okay. So
So
can we have 3 as participants? Because it will be very hard to have more than that. It's going to be very hard to coordinate it, but because some of us work, some of us different country, different time zone. So I'm just worried. Can I include my sister?
I suppose,
I don't know.
sorry,
Should
can I
the
include?
my sister as
Yeah, it's okay. No, so you could include outsiders like your sisters for
okay,
being participant is okay. But
okay,
yeah, so try to use MS Team, and then you can use the class schedule. Yeah. So you have
okay,
the Monday at 15 and also Friday at 1 o'clock. So use the, so you have the, let's say, uh, so the exams official schedule for the exam will be but in 2 weeks, uh, and then you have 1 week for, yeah, correction, yeah,
yes,
from the teachers
yes.
before being submitted, before being scored. It means you have 3 weeks, and then to, so please prepare from now, yeah, because I haven't got any, yeah, only from Erwina, also from Ifunda, still, yeah, some revisions. Please again refer to the what files I have presented for making lesson plan, or for the details from Brown, but it's, you have to modify. It's too what, too sophisticated, or just simplify from the browns or modify, not to rigid or not to. But at least you can refer to the files, making lesson plan, pre-recording. That is, I suppose, quite simple here. Not. So basically, you have what you call introduction, and then presentation, and then closing. That is the essence of micro teaching, like in the writing class or composition class, meaning you have. So the term is induction, right? Induction, that is the introduction, and then you have presentation, the main teaching activities, and then you have closing and assessment, meaning in the form of quiz, small quiz. Yeah. Because let's say if you are teaching simple present, yeah, simple present tense, and then end up with the quiz about simple present. Because you only have time, let's say like the half an hour, and including preparation, including the yeah quiz. Yeah. If you are teaching listening, the like let's say minimal pair or sound discrimination for basic level, or for advanced level, let's say like the listening to the long dialogues or lectures. So teaching listening is more complicated compared to other, like teaching grammar, reading, or teaching vocab. Okay, any other comments?
So can I share my lesson plan that I have revised?
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, sorry, I just muted the microphone. So on the left side is the guideline. I took
Yeah,
from
right. Yeah, okay, yeah, good.
from
Yeah,
the apa,
yeah,
from the PPT you have presented
yeah,
before, and
okay, yeah, right.
the right line is the my lesson plan that I tried to revise here. So I put here like the date and then all this
Yeah,
class, and then okay, some I haven't revised here. Yeah. Okay, but these are all the guideline. Actually, I took it from here.
yeah,
Yeah, this one. Yeah, I will put
yeah,
as a,
right. Yeah, that it. Yeah, yeah. I suppose it's good. Yeah,
yeah, and
just
then
follow the guidelines, and then you won't be
yeah.
on the wrong track. Yeah,
So these are all the what I have include in the lesson plan. Yeah, this
yeah,
from A to C. So
yeah.
here,
Okay, so I suppose you have complete for on the first part, that is the general information,
yeah,
date, and then class, and then student level intermediate, unit title, meaning the the topic today. So you may combine like the NESP, let's say like based on the content and grammatical. So if you remember about snake, yeah, snake and ladder
okay,
syllabus, yeah,
yeah,
combination between grammar and the content based on their method, that is the hotel, yeah, hotel people.
yeah, yeah.
Lesson title, yeah.
Let's get
So
it.
let's say like the selecting from one unit, and then you modify so that it will be shorter or more suitable to your students. So in designing the materials, there are three choices. One, the easiest one is just select from the course books. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then number two, uh, so you modify, meaning what do you call? Yeah, adapting from the existing course books. Let's say like uh, from the course book is adapted into more teaching material which are communicative, meaning it can be used for teaching practice, meaning that the materials make the students communicate each other. That is
Yes.
the essence of CLT
Yeah.
umbrella. Yeah, communicative language method or teaching. Yeah. Jadi just select, adopt meaning or adapt, or you can design from the authentic materials. It means it will take longer, yeah, more time to do so, yeah. So there are three choices. So yeah, so in adapting, you could like reducing or adding or modifying, meaning also it will take time as well.
Okay, sir.
And then aims.
This is I have
So I suppose
simplified.
for aim you just formulate in one or two sentences will be enough because it
Oh,
will
okay,
be
okay.
like umbrella. Let's say like the to improve listening comprehension or to improve to apply simple present or something like that. So aim should be the general one, meaning you don't formulate in several sentences. So
Oh,
one or two will be enough, and then objective will be more what specific. Yeah. So the details of the so M should be one or two sentences will be enough. Because the M is general, uh, and then objectives more specific. So you breakdowns of the aims. Yeah.
okay.
Okay, media and tools, and then yeah, the materials,
The procedure, I
tools,
think.
yeah, Bluetooth. Okay, the procedures. That is in the presentation, right? The
Yes.
okay closing. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
I think this is
You're on the
also
right
the
track in the
yeah, and so this
assessment. Okay, and
yeah.
so you provide rubrics like the light quiz,
Yes.
and then so you keep score or something like that to
Yeah.
be included in the your documents, meaning one of the appendices,
Oh,
the
okay.
form of rubrics, also the results, and then the what else?
I think that's it, sir. So
Yeah,
this is the apa? The teaching materials also
yeah,
as the
okay,
appendices.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, something like this. Okay, sir. Thank you very much for this review.
Okay, any comments, question from? So if you want to see like the how to adapt the teaching materials from grain, yeah, making the most of your course book or something like that. So you will learn how to modify in the existing course books.
Yes, but thank you so much. Inshallah, I'll try
Okay,
out to
yeah,
do our best.
yeah, okay.
But we still have one presentation to go. I mean, next Monday, inshallah.
Yeah, because
Uh, our group didn't bring
which group?
Stella, Yvonda, and Hind. We still have a presentation, I think,
Still
or
one group
teaching.
left, or yeah?
Yes.
Okay, and the group 4 will be Esma and
I think it's about situational approach.
yeah, and which one? Group 3? Hen, Ifonda, and Stella.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and what is it? The which method?
I think situational approach. Just give me a minute, but
Hmm. And then Esma, Francisca, Silent Way, and
uh,
Yes,
because
sir.
I was working on this day, I mean,
yeah.
it's oral situational language teaching.
Okay, and yeah, oral approach, yeah, from Britain, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay, from Ifonda, can you show your your lesson plan on the screen, Ifonda?
Yes, sir.
So for next week will be, I suppose, will be the last meeting or not? Next week for Monday class will be the last meeting or